So welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders, their backgrounds, their successes and their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And today I'm delighted that we have back with us Jon Potter, who's the Business Development Director at Vertically Urban. So firstly, Jon, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for coming back and giving us an update on how things are going for you. And if you'd like firstly to introduce yourself and Vertically Urban and what you do and how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, no problem. Good morning, Chris. Yeah, thanks for having us back. It's been a while. My name's Jon Potter, as Chris has said, Business Development Director at Vertically Urban. We are a UK manufacturing business based in between York and Leeds. We manufacture horticultural growing lights. So that's for things that people may not be aware of, vertical farm systems, and also, since we last spoke, luminaries for glass houses, so controlled environment agriculture.
Right,
that's something we've done since we last spoke.
Brilliant.
So yeah, it's been a busy 12, 15 months since we probably last spoke.
Brilliant. No, that's really fascinating, and it was interesting. I've been to a few events recently that talk about sustainability and things, and vertical farming and these sorts of things. It's becoming more and more, for me, well known for things that happen. So I'm sure there's lots and lots of interest. So since we spoke together last well over a year ago, I suspect, I'm keen to know what's changed for you in the business since we last spoke.
Where do we begin? Lots, I think, as we were sort of alluding to. We've seen war, energy crisis, cost crisis, labour crisis. So an awful lot. I think a lot of things that we probably wouldn't expect to see in our lifetime, never mind in a 12, 18 month period.
Yes.
So yes, it's been challenging, it's been exciting, and I would say we've been successful, which is the key point to that. So yeah, I suppose what's changed, the business has grown. We now currently employ around about 45, 50 people in the area, in manufacturing and everything else that we do. We've entered into the North American market, so we've seen some very, very recent success out in North America, which has led to other things for us within Europe. And yeah, we've spread our wings in Europe with companies out in Sweden, Italy, Spain. So yeah, it's been interesting.
Wonderful. That's so great to hear. And I guess one of the questions, funny enough, I'm working with an engineering company at the moment, and they're just starting to get orders in from Sweden as a matter of interest. And how has dealing with Europe how have you found it?
Luckily, I only have to deal with the people. I don't have to deal with the paperwork. But as a business, dealing with Europe, generally speaking, has become more difficult. More paperwork, more questions to be answered, more papers to be filled in order to export. That's involved more costs, delays in shipping and things. So it's been challenging. I mean, as people, it's no different. People, we don't really, it doesn't matter whether we're in Europe, out of Europe, wherever we are, people are people. So dealing with the people is no different whatsoever. It's very nice. But yeah, it's been challenging as a business, I think, because of things that have been going on.
Yes. And alongside that, what are some, I mean, you say you've grown, you're about 45 people now. I'm trying to think where you would have been when we last spoke. I'm guessing it was quite a bit small.
No, not quite. We've always been up and down over a number of years, but probably I would say around about maybe sort of 25, 35 people-ish, something like that. So we probably added 10 or so, something like that. We still need and do use agency people, just because the manufacturing that we do isn't yet consistent. It's very much project driven because of the industry that we're in. But yeah, getting people's been probably one of the biggest challenges. Getting people, retaining people, and obviously, making sure that cost level stays in a controllable place.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. I was talking to somebody literally yesterday saying how much salaries in their sector, very different sector, but have gone up. I mean, I would think was talking almost like sort of 50% more over the last sort of 3 years or so from where they're expecting to for quite niche people. But you know, I'm seeing that quite regularly, that it's like 10, 20, 30% more typically we're having to pay than we would have done sort of probably pre-COVID is probably the best measure.
Yeah, I'm not sure too much in terms of the figures, but yeah, it's a considerable, I would say, you know, costs that way have gone up, yeah, somewhere between 10 and 20%.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not by any stretch saying that those costs shouldn't go up and people don't deserve that. But I think the general public and thing don't truly sometimes understand that, you know, the minimum wage going up is actually a cost to our business. Yeah. Although it brings us all up to a place where everybody needs to be, the cold hard truth of that is if there's a 5-6% rise in minimum wage, that's a 5-6% rise in our costs.
Yes.
And, you know, there's a wonder of, do we pass that on? Does it eat into our mat? What do we do with that? You know, and all of these price rises that we see, there are things like that people, I don't know, choose to ignore. Yeah. And it's a huge contributory factor to the rising costs of products and services.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And obviously there's 2 or 3 challenges they've identified. What and you mentioned a little bit earlier, but what would you say are some of the key wins that you've achieved over since we've last spoke?
Well, as I say, we've managed to branch into North America. Yeah. We're about to sign a significant deal on some 3 farms in North America. We've won a couple of things, as I say. Sweden is one. That's a company that are making vertical farms, but they're putting them in supermarkets. So not these huge big things, but more what people see. So it's part of fresh produce, no transport, and education. So, you know, general public can see how things are grown in that kind of environment, which I think is always very important.
Yes.
So that we launched, or we're about to launch, a couple of new products. We're going to the Green Tech show this year. We went last year. I don't know whether we'd been or we were about to go, but last year we launched a product, and then this year we're going to launch, I suppose 2 or 3 products really.
Wow.
So that's been very quick for us, and it takes us also into a different area of technology. So predominantly we're a lighting manufacturer, but we are going to launch a system called Horis, which is an AI machine learning system, which apart from controlling the lumina of the lights, it sort of controls things like watering. It's a camera system to see whether or not the plants are growing correctly. Eventually, it will be able to detect disease and things that the human eye can't see quickly. So, you know, moving more and more towards that autonomous growing environment that we touched on, I think, over a year ago.
Absolutely.
You know, the vision is that, you know, we press a button, the crop grows, and we come back 25, 30 days later and we harvest. That's the whole idea. So, yeah, big steps towards that, really.
Wowzers, that sounds amazing. It really does. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. How, you know, all the conversation about how AI is coming into our lives. That's what a great use of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, you know, the AI we're using, it's not a robot that's going around talking. Obviously, it's a system that, you know, the use of cameras and everything else, but it's still got to learn. And eventually it'll be able to prescribe and predict what's happening. So it can see that maybe the nutrient isn't enough for a particular crop and put more nutrients in, or, you know, the lighting recipe is slightly wrong and it will alter that recipe in order to correct what's going on. So it's very interesting, and it's stuff that, you know, I think people look at agriculture and horticulture and see farmers in dirty wellies, and I think it shows that the industry isn't about that anymore. It's about it's about technology, and, you know, it should open up things for people to start looking at, you know, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, AI, machine learning, as well as the traditional sort of agricultural parts. So it's the industry and what's going on, I think, is very exciting. I think there's more exciting times to come.
Absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. And how good is it as an individual and as an organisation? Are you good at celebrating your wins?
As an individual, I think I'm very good at it. As a business, I think we could be better. But, you know, I think the celebration of wins and what we're doing on that front is quite important. You know, as we touched upon in terms of costs and retaining staff. So I think since we last spoke, we've brought in sort of once a month now. We run something for everybody within the team. You know, whether that we go bowling or we go playing crazy golf or we do something or it's a barbecue. But all of those things, I suppose, are, well, yeah, they're celebrating the success that we're having, but it's also a big tool in terms of being able to retain staff that we've learned from, you know, staff engagement, etc. And again, we touched earlier, we can't just continually keep giving people pay rises because we'd be out of business. So, you know, these little things for staff engagement and retention have helped tremendously. You know, you can feel the atmosphere of the business has become a little bit more buoyant and exciting. And there's a more of a buzz than there was before.
Brilliant.
And that's the thing, but I'm sure it's been part of what we've been doing to bring that along and bring everybody on the same journey.
I agree that it may not be the only thing, but you know, if the flip side of it, go into an organization where everyone's miserable and see the difference, if you know what I mean. It's like if you go to an organization and people are buzzing, that's worth so much, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, and it's, you know, it's not that we were by far for anything but miserable, but as I say, you know, we like every business, you know, there are people within the team that leave for, you know, maybe 20 pence an hour more, for instance, and don't know what to expect when they get to that job that gives them a fraction, where, you know, adding in the things that we're doing, we believe is worth more than that. You know, it's about everything, you know, people's well-being and, you know, making sure that the work-life balance is good. And if we can help towards that, I think, yeah, you know, it's done something good for everybody.
Brilliant. I was at an event. I've been at an event the last couple of days, and they had one of the speakers. It was more sort of discussions rather than speeches, but was the ex-CTO of Microsoft in the States, and she was talking about teams, and she said it was really interesting because she said a team is a construct. It's still a group of individuals, and we need to understand and not just accept that, but work to that. It's not just a team thing; it is the individuals, and we need to build those interrelationships too. And as sort of as obvious as a statement as it is, it's quite fascinating, I think, because we do talk about team a lot, but it's, as she says, it's still a bunch of individuals.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's funny you mentioned, I was reading something the other day, I can't for the life of me think, but something stuck, and I've just looked at there in my notebook, is that the quote was, any day of the week I'll take an A team with a B idea over a B team with an A idea.
Great.
So I think just in terms of what you're saying there, you know, it is, and for us as a small business, it truly is about the combined effort. You know, it isn't about the individuals. It's about us winning business, winning orders, manufacturing it and getting it to the customer and servicing the customer in the right way. And that isn't going to be done in any way, shape or form by an individual. It's got to be done by the group of individuals. So, yeah, you know, I think the team and what we've got going is massively improved, and it's very good. You know, I think we can only see good things for the future, the people we have.
And what would you say you've learned from both your wins and your challenges over the last 12 months?
I think a lot of cases, and I think historically I've learned that, you know, there are a lot of things outside of our control that there's not a lot we can do about them. So, for instance, the energy, you know, there's not a lot I can do about the cost of energy. There's not a lot about what's going on in Europe that we as individuals can control. So I think, you know, to learn to stop getting eaten up or frustrated about the things that are outside of our control, and more sitting down and think, how can we address those things, or how can we help in order to overcome those things? So certainly in our industry, you know, energy has been a huge topic. You know, if you think that, I don't know, probably 40 to 50% of the OPEX of a vertical farm is the lighting and the electricity that consumes. So we've been putting a lot of effort into research, as the industry, of how we can reduce that energy. So rather than complain that the energy cost is too much, is how do we reduce the energy that is used that overall brings down the cost. I think it's trying to get people to think in that way rather than, the energy cost is so much, that means everything's finished, and that's not the case,
It's bang on. I think it was Stephen Covey talks about this idea of your circle of control and your circle of concern. So this is what we think and worry about, and this is what we control. And the bigger the gap is stress. Ultimately, it's worry and stress. And as you absolutely said, it's either increase your control or reduce your concern, or do a bit of both. Because if you can't change it, let's not worry too much about it, because worry doesn't really help us in general.
No, generally not. And, and it's easy to sit here and say it, but, we have, and I think the industry as a whole, as us, we've taken practical steps to reduce the energy consumption that is used, right. Which, delivers huge benefits to customers and to everybody. And when the costs do eventually come down, because they will, as we've seen today, then, all as that means is that there's more profit in it for the companies, the growers. I'm not suggesting that for us by any shape, but for the grower, because these people who are growing any form of vegetable or fruit or anything in the UK, the margins they work on are honestly tiny. And I don't think as a country or as consumers, I don't think we even understand what level they work on.
It's tough, isn't it? It really is tough out there.
And we consider that we're in the food industry, but the UK is paying probably the lowest price for food than any other European nation.
Right.
And it's no wonder, the shortage of stuff that was on the shelves, and I'm not going into anything political, in the summer, that wasn't happening elsewhere in Europe. And that's because suppliers were sending it to places where they were getting more money for it than they were here. Yes. It's just a matter of economics. It's not political. It's not anything else.
No.
But we've grown up, with the cost of our food is not, it's probably on a par of what it costs to produce it. So there is no profit. So how would you expect these people to carry on doing a job if they're not earning any money?
No, completely agree. It's hopefully they'll get some balance back into that sort of marketplace over the next few years.
I hope so. And all of these things, every little bit of efficiency gain that we can make, whether that be in terms of using less energy or being able to produce more with the same amount of energy, that creates higher yield and better productivity, and hopefully leads to better cost, better prices for everybody involved.
Really hope so. So you might remember last time, you've already given me one, but you remember I love to collect quotes, things that sayings that we use on a regular basis. You've already been good enough to give us one. Are there any others that you find yourself using on a regular basis?
No, but as I say, I did. What was it on? I can't remember what I was listening to, and I wrote it down. The other one was that the ideas are easy, execution is everything. And I suppose it's, again, because I was listening or reading the same thing, it's related to the team, and that you need a great team to execute the ideas that everybody's coming up with.
Absolutely.
Again, within our own business and any business, the management doesn't have a monopoly on good ideas. We've put in things like suggestion boxes that everybody within the building can drop in a suggestion, and we will review them every couple of weeks. And there's some fantastic suggestions. It's just then how we incorporate that into our business, and how we make it commercially viable.
Brilliant. Wonderful. And what would you say, Jon, you've learned about yourself over your career?
I think I've learned to become a little bit more patient and understand what's going on. As I say, in our industry, I would say that things are probably 6 to 9 months behind because of the things we've mentioned. Where, I suppose a good few years ago, you'd be very impatient and you want them things to happen. And, you try your utmost to make it happen. And as we've just said, the things that are outside of my control are the things that are stopping projects happening. So you got to sort of understand that, it's nothing that I'm or we're doing as a business. It's just the sort of economic times we live in, that you look at the numbers, the cost of energy, the cost of building these farms and converting these farms from older technologies to newer technologies, it has a cost. And if the numbers don't add up, well, people aren't going to do it. And we've got to wait for those things to come back into, the range where it makes sense. And so to be a little bit more patient and less frustrated about those things, I think, is the biggest sort of take.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because it's a very entrepreneurial trait to want to get there as quickly and as fast as we can. Although I know it's not directly related to what you said, but again, one of the phrases that the lady from Microsoft spoke it yesterday, and I use a similar phrase, is she said, sometimes you've got to go slow to go fast. And I often say slow down to speed up. It is that's actually valuable time. Often when we give ourselves permission to take a step back and look at it and think a bit more and do some what ifs, but it's it is in the DNA, I think, of entrepreneurial people to really want to go at it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and the owner of the business is the brainchild, but it is difficult, and I do understand. It's very difficult. We've got to go fast. We want everything now, but we need a lot of things now because ultimately that's what funds the business. We're not a charity. At the end of the day, we've got to sell products in order to make money, in order for us to move forward. So when things are delayed, I expect that the stress level for him goes up, tenfold. But as I say, it's outside of my, anybody else's control. And it's just how we plan and we react to that, I think, is the thing that makes or differs the successful companies from unfortunately the not successful companies.
Yes. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So looking forward, you've touched a little bit already, but looking forward, what's the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you foresee, if any?
Well, I suppose like anything, the challenge is cash. So cash flow, etc., and managing that. But we're in control of that, and we do that. Looking forward, as I say, we're going to the horticultural show in Amsterdam in June. There we'll launch a couple of new products, as we've said. We'll catch up with a lot of customers that we've been talking to for quite some time, physically, face to face, and we're very confident and very excited of what we see over there, and that we're not being left behind at all. And what we've got to offer will take the company forward into different environments. As I said, glasshouse is something that we've never really targeted before, but we're launching products that will take us into that. Again, it's probably an odd concept for people because they have greenhouses at home, but in a commercial greenhouse they do use supplemental lighting. So especially in the winter months when there's not as long days, lighting is still required in order to keep crop growing. So it's a big market globally. In terms of lighting, especially certainly in Northern Europe, there's a lot of places using supplemental lighting. It extends the growing season. So that's exciting times. I think that's the couple of big things, new markets and new sort of sectors within our own market, really.
Brilliant. And you mentioned one or two new initiatives. Should we be looking for out in our supermarkets fairly soon for some of your equipment, some of your displays to be in there?
So no, we won't be in supermarkets. I mean, where the lighting and stuff behind, but I would expect to start seeing products that are grown vertically into supermarkets.
Brilliant.
So I know full well within the industry there are some companies that are now getting products out into supermarkets that have been grown in a vertical farm. It's just whether or not that gets promoted, and whether what we do as a country and as an industry, it's a little bit supposed to try and put something around it, a bit like organic. When that arrived in supermarkets all them years ago, it was treated differently. It's more expensive, but we told everybody it was organic. I don't know whether we'll do the same from a vertical farm and say, this is a vertical farm product.
Yes.
I believe we should, because I
Yep.
think that, the taste and everything is better. But that's up to, again, people, who make the rules.
Yeah.
Whether or not, that will be something that's used from a marketing position. But yeah, I think it should. But yeah, I mean, there are people and there are supermarkets today that are stocking some salad bags and some things that are grown in vertical farms.
I now you said it, I'm conscious of my last trip to France, and there are some of the fresh produce looks like it probably has come literally. You're buying, in fact, you're buying growing leaves from memory. You could actually buy a tray of, and I'm not just talking about herbs, I'm talking about salad leaves and stuff that I guess possibly will have been grown in that manner, and they've literally just brought them in and put them down, which makes sense for longevity of the product, doesn't it? It's still alive.
Absolutely, and the big challenge is, I say these things, but it's true. The big challenge is food waste and stuff.
Yes.
If you get something that is still living, for instance, and it doesn't necessarily have to still be living because it's been in a vertical farm, but if we buy something that's living, then genuinely it lasts longer. And once you finish using it, then there is no waste.
Yes.
Whereas if we buy a bag of salad, we do it, I do it. You use one something out of it, half of it goes to waste, and we throw it away.
Yes.
It's a sad state of affairs, the amount of food that we throw.
Yes, absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Oh, John, it's been fascinating catching up, and I really wish you the best of luck with these new initiatives and these things you're doing. And I know you said you've only added 10 people to the team, but that's pretty much a third growth. That's pretty cool. When you look
absolutely.
I think many people watching this would like 33% growth in best part of 12 months. So I would congratulate you and wish you very well on some of the new initiatives you've got, both product wise, but geographically, in moving into new marketplaces. And for anyone watching this that'd like to get in touch with you or your company, what would be the best way to do so, John?
So we have the website is probably the easiest. We have a contact form on the website, and that's just at verticallyurban.com. And then obviously there's a contacts part there for people to send us in anything they want, any questions, or if they want to get in touch with me personally, just put it in there.
Brilliant. And if, with permission, it'd be great to swing by again and I mean, it's obviously your journey is quite exciting at the moment. It'd be great to see what you've achieved and what the next steps are in another 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, absolutely. Always welcome.
Brilliant. Thanks, John.
No problem. Thanks, Chris.